On a dark night at the end of the rainy season, three friends named Raka, Bimo, and Dini decided to climb a remote mountain in West Java. The mountain was rarely visited because of its steep trail and the mysterious stories surrounding it. However, they felt challenged to conquer its peak, which had rarely been reached. When they arrived at the base of the mountain, they met a local who gave them a warning. "Don't climb to the peak at night," he said sternly. "There is something up there that should not be disturbed." But they ignored the warning, confident that it was just a tale to scare off hikers. They began their climb in the late afternoon, hoping to reach the summit before midnight. As the sun began to set, a thick fog suddenly enveloped the trail. The tall trees loomed overhead, their branches resembling hands reaching out to grab them. The atmosphere grew increasingly eerie as strange sounds began to echo. From the distance, whispers, faint laughter, and footsteps that seemed to follow them. Yet no one was there. As night deepened, they felt lost. The path that should have been straight suddenly branched into two. They chose the easier-looking route, but it led them to an open area with a large stone in the center. Strangely, there were fresh offerings on the stone. Someone had recently placed them there. Bimo sensed something was wrong and suggested they turn back, but Raka insisted they continue. Suddenly, Dini felt like something was following her. When she turned around, she saw a large black shadow with glowing red eyes through the fog. She screamed, but Raka and Bimo saw nothing. They assumed Dini was hallucinating from exhaustion. They continued walking until they came upon an old, abandoned hut. They decided to rest there, though the atmosphere around it was unsettling. Inside the hut, there were many black and white photos of people who seemed to be past hikers. Strangely, the photos looked too new for such an old hut. That night, they all had the same nightmare. They saw themselves climbing the mountain, but they never reached the peak. Instead, they kept circling back to the same old hut, with each loop showing more hikers disappearing into the fog. When they woke up, they were shocked to see one of the photos on the wall was of the three of them, taken from behind as they began their climb. Raka quickly realized they were being trapped by something unseen. They rushed out of the hut, trying to find their way down. But every path they took seemed to lead them back to the same hut. It was as if the mountain didn't want them to leave, the height of their despair. Dini heard a faint whisper in her ear. "Return to the stone. Leave something behind." She suddenly remembered the offerings on the large stone. Perhaps they had disturbed something that required them to make amends. They hurried back to the stone. Raka placed his beloved bracelet on it. Bimo left his trusted pocket knife, and Dini laid down the necklace her mother had given her. Slowly, the fog began to lift, and they finally found their way down. As they descended and looked back, the mountain seemed as quiet and peaceful as before, but a lingering sense of dread remained in their hearts. They knew they would never return, and the mysterious stories about the mountain remain an unsolved secret. Since then, they never climbed another mountain, and whenever they heard stories of lost hikers, they always wondered if those hikers had also encountered something that should have remained hidden on that